The sudden passing of 33-year-old actor Jin Ze sent shockwaves across the internet. But the tragedy didn't end there. Things escalated quickly when his ex-girlfriend quietly leaked screenshots of their private chat history online. The leaked messages instantly triggered a fresh wave of public outrage, spreading like wildfire until they crowned the Weibo trending charts on June 13th. Reading through those messages, we're forced to witness a real, breathing human being who is slowly but surely opening up about just how suffocating his life had become. Yet, what truly breaks your heart isn't what he managed to say, it's everything he left unspoken. Hey Tracers! Today, we're breaking down everything from those leaked chats. We're gonna dig a little deeper, because this isn't just about Jin Ze's story. It's about what this entire industry is doing to the mental health of young creators out there. But before we get ahead of ourselves, and for those who missed our last video, let's do a quick recap on who Jin Ze actually was, because you never know how deep this rabbit hole goes. Jin Ze was a short drama actor. In his world, he was actually a fairly recognizable face, with a loyal fan base and a solid online presence. But listening to those closest to him, you begin to realize just how brutal his daily routine actually was. He was constantly running from one set to another, chasing tight deadlines from project to project, to the point where having proper rest was a luxury he couldn't afford. In the fast-paced world of short dramas, this kind of grueling grind isn't an exception. It's the rule of the jungle. It's just how the game is played. However, the text messages exposed by his ex-girlfriend paint a much more detailed, heartbreaking picture of that daily grind. The Jin Ze in those chats wasn't the charismatic, high-energy young actor we saw on screen. He was a human being whose spirit was slowly being drained out of him. He repeatedly mentioned how exhausted he was. And it wasn't just your typical casual venting either. It was the kind of deep-seated burnout that he couldn't even put into words, leaving him completely lost on how to find a way out. At one point, he even admitted he couldn't see the purpose of keeping going anymore. In the realm of mental health, that one brief sentence carries a heavy weight. It is the textbook language of someone quietly fighting a losing battle with depression. He never received intensive treatment. Or, even if he had tried to, he never really had the option to just stop and take a break. Because in this industry, the moment you pause, you stop getting hired. No work means no income. And without an income, there was simply no way for him to survive, let alone keep his footing in this business. It's a brutal, never-ending vicious cycle. But shockingly, this isn't even the worst part. Deep within those chat logs, his ex-girlfriend exposed an entirely different side of his reality. It turns out, the pressure weighing Jin Ze down wasn't just about the crushing workload. There was another kind of pressure, something far more insidious and hidden deep within the underbelly of the industry itself. This pressure goes by a specific name. It's an open secret in showbiz that everyone knows about, yet almost no one dares to speak out loud in front of a camera. Under-the-table sexual harassment between men, commonly known as the male-to-male casting couch. And the moment this topic is brought to light, it instantly points back to another name, Yu Menglong. He was also a male actor who had starred in several popular dramas and enjoyed a decent amount of fame. However, in recent years, the controversies surrounding his name have only grown more intense. When Yu Menglong passed away, rumors flooded the internet claiming he had refused to play by these unwritten rules. As a result, he was blacklisted and completely frozen out by the industry. It was Yu Menglong's death that ultimately cracked this mystery wide open, unlocking a Pandora's box that had been sealed tight for years. His passing made people realize, for the very first time, that in the entertainment industry, these predatory unwritten rules don't just target women. Male actors, too, are forced to face the exact same transactional reality and step into the exact same dark room. After all, there is a much harsher reality behind all of this. When a female actress becomes a victim, society at least has a framework and a vocabulary to articulate and understand the situation. But when a male actor is the victim, he is left with almost zero room to even speak up. Because the moment he dares to find his voice, what awaits him is a double humiliation. First, it spells the absolute end of his career. And second, it means the total demolition of his pride as a man. This two-tiered wall of silence is precisely why under-the-table harassment against men in the entertainment industry remains completely buried at the bottom of the ocean. No one dares to speak out. No one wants to look into it. And not a single soul is willing to admit that something this disgusting actually happens in broad daylight. Now, through Jin Ze's leaked texts, that very same dark shadow is slowly starting to resurface. Did he spell it out explicitly? No. Did he openly point fingers at someone? Not either. But the sheer helplessness bleeding through his words, the raw emotion of someone who had completely run out of options combined with the specific choices of words his ex-girlfriend used when exposing the chat, was more than enough to set off public speculation. Sometimes the silence itself tells the entire story. Now, let's zoom out for a moment. Let's look past Jin Ze's personal tragedy and look at the short drama industry as a whole. Short dramas have been one of the fastest growing gold mines in the Chinese entertainment market over the past few years. Low production costs, lightning fast turnarounds, and instant returns on investment on paper, it's an investor's dream. But who actually pays the real price for those investor calculations? The actors? For a single short drama title, the entire shoot is usually crammed into just 7 to 14 days. The moment one wraps, they immediately step on the gas for the next project. Because of this, it's an open secret and completely normal for an actor to be filming multiple different series simultaneously at any given time. Sometimes, they'll be shooting a period drama at location A in the morning, rushing to location B for a modern romance by the afternoon, and when they finally get back at night, they're still burning the midnight oil, just to memorize lines for a third script. Looking at his work records and the accounts of those around him, this was exactly the kind of relentless, non-stop grind that Jin Ze was trapped in. Insiders have a specific term for this kind of work culture. They call it treating actors as consumables. Run them into the ground, throw them away, and replace them with a new batch. There is always an endless line of fresh young faces waiting outside as backups. This cutthroat competition means that anyone inside the machine simply doesn't dare to say no. Because the exact second you turn down an offer, dozens of others will instantly step up and say, "I'll do it." This structural imbalance ultimately creates a one-way pressure system. Every single cost, every risk, and the entire physical and mental toll is passed downward. It rolls all the way to the very bottom of the food chain, landing squarely on the shoulders of the person standing in front of the camera, the actor. Under a system like this, it looks as though every actor willingly enters the meat grinder. But in reality, their consent is just an illusion, a choice forced upon them because they genuinely have no alternative. The most genius form of exploitation is when the system successfully convinces the victims that their suffering is entirely their own doing. Now, some of you might ask, doesn't China have an actors guild? Aren't there labor regulations? The answer is yes. On paper, everything is covered. These actors have the China Association of Performing Arts, various industry-backed self-regulatory codes of conduct, and they are technically protected by labor contract laws. But unfortunately, when it comes to the actual reality on the ground, all those rules are practically useless. They're nothing more than window dressing. That's because the entire ecosystem of this industry is built on personal connections, networks, and unspoken, unwritten rules, not on transparent, guaranteed contracts. So, for a young actor, even when they're treated terribly, what real options do they actually have? Option 1. Swallow your pride, take the gig, and keep crawling your way up. Option 2. Speak up, get quietly blacklisted by industry gatekeepers, and watch your name vanish into thin air. There is no option 3. The transparency of an industry dictates just how well its workers can be protected. And unfortunately, the Chinese entertainment industry has one of the lowest transparency levels compared to any other major entertainment market in the world. Over there, There is no transparency when it comes to contract values or actor pay, no open competition for project casting, and the sheer control production companies hold over their artists often borders on absolute, total ownership. Not long ago, a report exposed that the employment contracts some artists signed with their agencies contained incredibly predatory clauses. These clauses range from restricting personal freedom to controlling their private lives, and even after the contract expired, there were legal traps and non-compete clauses designed to keep the artist shackled. Did Jin Ze have a similar contract? Admittedly, we don't have direct evidence of that just yet. But we all know that in this business, that kind of contract isn't an isolated incident, it's a widespread phenomenon. One netizen put it bluntly in the comments: "The contracts signed in showbiz aren't actually employment contracts. They are indentured servitude agreements wrapped in a normal-sounding name." Now, let's talk about depression. According to estimates by the World Health Organization, there are currently over 50 million people in China suffering from depression. But that number is likely just the tip of the iceberg compared to the actual reality on the ground. Because in China, especially within high-pressure industries, depression is still deeply stigmatized and viewed as a badge of shame. The moment you open up about being depressed, investors or agencies will label you as unprofessional, lacking dedication, or simply too fragile to make it as an actor. And the second you say you need a break, people on set will assume you're acting like a diva, making up excuses, or trying to leverage your position to dictate terms. As a result, countless active professionals choose to mask their condition, showing up to work while suffering in silence, pulling a rope that is already taut tighter and tighter until it finally snaps. And here lies the unique irony of showbiz. It creates a double illusion. To the outside world, all you see is the glare of the spotlights, the love from the fans, and a beautifully curated aesthetic on social media. But on the inside, it's nothing but pressure, uncertainty, exploitation, and enforced silence. Both of these worlds exist at the exact same time, yet the outside world can never peer into what's actually happening behind closed doors. When Jin Ze's fans watched his short dramas, they saw a high-energy, passionate young actor. They had no idea that in between takes, he was messaging his ex-girlfriend, admitting he could no longer see the point of holding on and fighting anymore. From Leslie Cheung to Kimmy Chow, all the way to the countless, nameless, behind-the-scenes workers who have absolutely no one to speak up for them, this grim list never truly stops growing. Every single name on that list is living proof of a systemic failure. Yet, every time tragedy strikes, our collective response is always the same. What a shame, or wow, how tragic. But we never genuinely stop to question why this merciless corporate machine is allowed to keep running and claiming victims. In the wake of Jin Ze's passing, the entertainment media immediately zeroed in on a few predictable angles, offering condolences, lamenting his loss, praising his raw talent, and grieving over a life cut far too short. And then comes the second wave, turning his death into pure gossip. They treat his ex-girlfriend's raw revelations as mere entertainment commodities to be consumed bickering over which specific detail is more scandalous or which part makes the most clickbait-worthy screenshot to validate with a share button. Hardly anyone bothers to ask the most fundamental question. What kind of system drives a talented young actor to such utter despair in the first place? Where is the production company's accountability? They'll simply deflect, "This is just the standard pace of the industry. No one forced him to take on that many projects. It was his own choice." Then, where are the investors? They'll hide behind market logic. That's just how the market operates. Competition is fierce, and we're strictly running a business here. What about the streaming platforms? They'll wash their hands clean. We just distribute the short dramas. The actors' working conditions are completely outside our jurisdiction and responsibility. And finally, where are the regulatory bodies? They'll just issue a boilerplate statement. "We are currently reviewing and drafting relevant regulations." Every single player in this circle passes the buck to the next. Everyone feels like they're just a tiny, helpless gear in a vast machine rather than the owners of it. Yet, ironically, every single one of them profits from the money this cruel machine spits out. Isn't this the perfect reflection of how this entire industry operates? On the surface, everyone holds a signed liability waiver. But in reality, everyone is actively capitalizing on the very cage that traps these young creators inside. As netizens have pointed out, Jin Ze wasn't the first, and he certainly won't be the last. As long as the core logic and the underlying system of this industry remain unchanged, the next victim is already hiding in plain sight. Finally, there's one last thing I want to share with you. Let's look back one last time at those chat logs. Inside those text messages, Jin Ze did manage to express a few things. But in reality, there was so much more he couldn't bring himself to say. He chose to remain silent instead. Or, more accurately, the system had conditioned him so deeply that he knew exactly what would happen. He knew that forcing certain truths out into the open would carry a consequence far heavier than the burden of keeping quiet. To break someone down to the point where they have to learn to shut up, imagine how many failed attempts it took, how many moments of sheer frustration, and how many times did he have to be told, either bluntly or through passive-aggressive remarks, that whatever he said would never change a single thing. The real dark side of the entertainment industry isn't just about the explosive scandals that occasionally leak to the public. A scandal breaks, public outrage flares up, but a few days later it all gets buried under the next viral trend. Everything goes back to business as usual, without a single thing actually changing. The true dark side of showbiz is the part that will never be exposed to the light. It lives in those who choose to stay silent, desperately surviving inside the system, putting on a bright smile in front of the camera, while in late-night private chats, they quietly document the slow, agonizing destruction of their own souls. Jin Ze's case is merely a tiny fracture that accidentally cracked open, offering us a brief, fleeting glimpse into what truly goes on behind closed doors. But even this fracture will soon seal back up as public fatigue sets in. When Leslie Chung passed, we said the industry was too cruel. When Kimmy Chow passed, we wondered why no one was there to save him. And now, with Jin Ze gone, we're busy obsessing over what he said right before his death. Public attention will eventually fade, and this window into the mystery will lock tight once again. But the question we genuinely need to ask is this: when will this corporate machine finally grind to a halt? How many more names must be sacrificed before someone finally steps up and demands to know what is fundamentally broken with this system? Because behind the blinding glare of the silver screen, this industry harbors a darkness far greater than anything we could ever imagine, and our job is to refuse to look away. If you're still watching this, maybe you're looking for the same thing I am. I'm Virell. See you in the next episode.